Welcome back to another episode of In the End, There's Always a Disney God. Before we get into today's episode, make sure you subscribe to my Disney God blog and check out all my socials. So, you guys, it's one thing I can say about Marvel is Marvel definitely knows how to travel into every sector of the universe. And when I mean every sector of the universe, I mean literally every sector of the universe. We got Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is kind of like the newly introduced character. And as we discover more about, life of what we can't see, or you remember guys when I forgot the name of the bald head lady. Um, I think she was I just forgot her name, but you remember in Doctor Strange, and the bald head lady did this magical move on Doctor Strange, and his soul came out because Doctor Strange didn't believe that there was no such thing as a spirit or a soul, and so she had to prove to him that just because you can't see something, or like you can't see it with the human eye, doesn't mean it isn't there. So when she removed his soul out of his body and he died, because without your soul you can't live, and he died and fell out, um and he looked at himself, he was like, what the? And then when she pulled him back into his body, he was like, what did you do to me? So it's one thing I can say that we've discovered in is there's a lot of parts of the universe that Marvel has now introduced us to. Another thing that I will say is that with what's upcoming with Doctor Strange is that, as you can see with WandaVision, as you guys know, in the end, people wondered where was Wanda? Where was she at? And why was she there? Wanda felt tremendous guilt about what she did to those people, to those town people, because when she had that hex running, when that hex that hex that was taking over the town running, not only was it just controlling people for her little town, but it was also horrifying people because all of Wanda's burdens were laid on the people that were under her control. And like I said, whenever someone enters that hex, they immediately, this is the things that happens to them when they enter the hex. So I would say there are a total of 5 things. So because the hex is like a specific type of reality, what happened, well, one of the happens to them as soon as they enter in, because when you try to attempt to enter the hex, because of how powerful it is and how, strong it takes you a minute to enter the hex, like it did with Captain Rambo. So I don't know if you guys remember, but when Captain Rambo went inside the hex, when she tried to go inside the hex, you saw how when she went in and it was like a struggle for her, and like 3 of her inner cells were like separating. She pulled them all together and she came back, still went inside. So the hex is one a very powerful force to get inside of when she built it, which is why she put that red force field around it to make it even harder for people to get inside of it. Now, what will happen to them is as they enter the reality, the reason why it's a struggle for people to get inside is because the reality is rewriting you as it enters. And if something can't be rewritten, it's not allowed to enter. If it's not allowed to rewrite you, like with the truck, when they tried to bring the truck inside, the truck couldn't go inside because it wasn't allowed to be rewritten. It couldn't be rewritten. So because the hex couldn't rewrite the truck to fit the reality, it just rejected it and spit it out. So that's why that's the first part. The first part is entering in the reality that she created, because when you enter it in, like I said, the reason why it's so tough to get on the other side is because the reality is trying to rewrite you to fit in. Vice versa is when she extended the portal, the reason why it went through so fast was because instead of them entering the portal, she expanded the portal to save Vision. So it was moving really fast and everything was changing really quickly to fit the reality. So the second part is after the reality portal rewrites you to fit the reality. What happens is then you're fully under her control. And that's why the kids didn't want, that's why she didn't want the kids to go past Park 43, because it's creepy. You know, even though she can't control like them, the powers of the hex are on autopilot. So even though she can't like control them physically, or basically write how they're supposed to specifically do things inside the hex, they just stand still. Which is why there's no movement in those part of the in that part of the hex. But it's still magic on autopilot, like Agatha said. And Wanda just felt so much guilt, because, and not just guilt, but grief as well. Because when she took down the portal the first time, if you guys are remembering episode 9, when she opened up the hex to release the people outside, as the hex was opening up, you could see things glitching crazy, like literally glitching. Like, you know how the TV statics when there's no connection? That's how things were glitching back and forth. The cars were glitching, the posters were glitching, the trees, the buildings, everything was glitching, because reality works as a whole. If it's broken, everything inside will break right along with it, just as well as the husband and the kids. So after she felt that grief and that pain of closing the hex, she felt the outcome of, tremendous guilt to what she did to those people, because like they said, they could feel her burden. All the things that she went through, they can feel her pain. They feel her nightmares and everything. So she didn't want to do things on accordance to how they feel she should be accountable. She wanted to take things into her own way. She wanted to do things in her own circumstance. She wanted to have her own way of being accountable, which is why she self-isolated herself in that place. But we're going to find out more about this, because I know for a fact Wanda did something to mess up the multiverse. And she might not have did it on purpose, but I don't know if you also remember seeing the post-credit scene when she went inside that house. There was a second part of her that was reading that dark magic book. I have a really bad feeling that she's probably going to test the waters with dark magic, because she doesn't really understand those powers, and her powers have already significantly grown. I mean, she went from being able to give people nightmares from creating reality. That's a large, difference. And it runs off her emotions. So the more angry or sad she becomes, the more powerful she becomes. And I believe that's when Doctor Strange will come in, because I have a big feeling she probably might do something really dangerous, especially when it comes to, reality. Doctor Strange is like the doctor. He's the protector of reality. So I know for a big fact, Doctor Strange is going to have to save her from whatever she's doing. And I know part of it probably has to do with her kids, because she probably wants to save her kids from whatever she's done. And like I said, in the previous episode, Marvel seems to go based off of the story of comics a lot. You see how this Captain America story went off the comic book, that even the comic books predicted that this was going to happen. House of M is directly similar to WandaVision. All of these things are leading back to the comics, which I have a big wild guess about what's going to happen next. If this is going to happen, most likely, y'all thought Avengers Civil War was something. If Marvel is really going off the comics, watch how Civil War 2 is going to be. If Marvel Cinematic Universe is going based off the comics, you won't even imagine how deep Marvel's Avengers Civil War 2 will be about, or when the next Avengers come out. Because most likely, the reason why they're doing Avengers last is because they're trying to get everybody else straight. They're trying to get the characters straight. Because most likely when the next Avengers come out, there's going to be a huge change and shift in what's going to happen in the next upcoming Avenger films. I have a big guess on what's going to happen, but I don't want to spoil anything or ruin anything for anyone. But thank you for listening in to today's episode. Make sure you subscribe and follow this podcast on both Google and Spotify. Thank you guys so much. Oh, and make sure you guys rate the show on IMDb, not IMBD, but IMDb. Just go to DisneyGuy.com, click on IMDb show, and just rate it from whatever you want to rate it for. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.